I was 32 weeks pregnant when my water broke, right there, in the middle of my mother's kitchen. I was trembling, in pain, begging for help. But instead of holding my hand, she humiliated me, called me dramatic, accused me of trying to ruin my sister's big day. And then she walked away, leaving me writhing on the floor, completely alone. But when I turned to my sister for help, what she did was even more shocking. Hello, my name is Amelia, and I'm 34 years old. If you walked past me on the street, you'd probably think I had it all together. A polished professional, steady voice, no-nonsense smile. I'm a clinical psychologist, trained to listen, to diagnose, to stay calm in chaos. People pay me to make sense of their mess. But no one ever paid attention to mine. I live in Boston, not far from the Beacon Hill mansion I grew up in, though I haven't called it home in years. That house belongs to my mother, Rebecca, and my younger sister, Brianna, the golden one. The one everyone adored. Me? I was always the responsible one. The invisible one. 6 months ago, I finally had a reason to stop hiding behind other people's expectations. I got pregnant. After 3 years of trying, after failed cycles and dashed hopes, I was carrying a miracle. A little boy. My son. My husband, Adam, cried when I showed him the test. He's an international project engineer, currently assigned to a massive infrastructure build in Singapore. He kissed my stomach before he left and whispered, "Be strong for both of us." And I am. But no one warned me how lonely it gets when your body is breaking down, and the people you need most, your family, aren't just distant. They're deliberately blind. It was 6:45 p.m., and I was finishing notes on a teenage client who'd just survived an abusive home. My office light buzzed softly. My assistant, Nurse Lisa, peeked in. "Dr. Amelia, that's your last appointment. Go home and put your feet up. You look pale." I smiled, brushing my fingers against the small curve of my belly. "I will," I lied. Instead, I sat back, staring at the wall for a moment. My heart pounded a little harder than usual. The swelling in my feet hadn't gone down in days. My head throbbed gently, just enough to remind me I wasn't okay. Not really. And then my phone buzzed. Rebecca. My mother. I stared at the screen for 3 rings before picking up. "Amelia, you're still coming to dinner tomorrow, right?" she said without so much as a hello. "We're finalizing the plans for Brianna's engagement party. I have a prenatal checkup at 3, but I'll try to be there after." She cut me off with a sigh. "You're always busy. Can't you be a little more cooperative? This is an important moment for your sister." A cold knot formed in my chest. Even now, even after all I've accomplished, still not enough. I didn't argue. I just said, "Okay," and hung up. Then I opened the last unread message from Adam. "Let me know how the baby's doing tomorrow. I wish I could be there." I wish you could too, Adam. Because the truth is something doesn't feel right. And I think deep down I already knew. Tomorrow would change everything. The next day, the prenatal clinic was humming with quiet tension, the kind only pregnant women and exhausted nurses understood. I sat in the corner, palms resting on the swell of my belly, trying to ignore the ache in my lower back. Dr. Andrews walked in, clipboard in hand, her brow furrowed even before she spoke. "Your blood pressure's higher than I like, Amelia," she said, sitting down across from me. "And there's protein in your urine. That's a red flag." I knew what she was thinking. I was thinking it too. Preeclampsia. How far along am I now? I asked, already knowing the answer, but needing to hear it out loud. 32 weeks, she replied. Still early. The baby could survive outside the womb if necessary, but NICU care would be required. "Amelia, I'm going to need you to rest." "I mean it. Strict bed rest." I nodded, smiling just enough to pass as cooperative. But in my heart, I knew it wouldn't matter. Not today. Because today was about Brianna. When I pulled into my mother's driveway later that afternoon, I saw the catering van already parked outside and 2 assistants arranging roses on gold-rimmed tables under a crystal-lit tent. Brianna's voice rang through the open hallway before I even reached the door. "Oh my God, Amelia," she called, holding up her hand dramatically as I stepped inside. A massive diamond caught the light like a flare. Isn't it stunning? Austin got it custom-made in Italy. It's beautiful, I said politely. She twirled once for effect, her dress hugging her like it had been sewn onto her skin. I've lost 3 pounds this week. Wedding body, you know? I looked down at my own swollen ankles and forced a smile. Mom, Rebecca, appeared behind her, arms folded. You're late. I wanted you to help finalize the guest list. I came straight from the doctor, I said. They told me I need rest. Rest, she echoed, unimpressed. You're always tired. Amelia, you're a psychologist, not a surgeon. How exhausting can your work be? That stung more than it should have. Even after years of published research and a private practice booked months in advance, she still thought of my career as optional. A hobby. A backup plan. I didn't respond. I just followed her to the dining room, where the engagement menu was being printed and floral centerpieces arranged like royalty was expected. As I sat there, I felt a tiny kick beneath my ribs. My baby, Mason, alive and growing inside me. My reason to keep smiling through the insults, through the weight of being the forgotten daughter. Brianna leaned over and whispered, "Just don't cause drama at the party, okay? Try not to faint or cry, or whatever you do." I wasn't planning to, I said quietly. She gave me a tight smile and patted my hand. Good girl. I should have left then. I should have turned around, walked out the door, and never looked back. But instead, I stayed, trying to protect a family that had never once protected me. And I had no idea how close I was to paying for that decision with my life. The day before the engagement party, I sat at the edge of the guest bed in my mother's house, one hand on my belly, the other pressing against my temple. My headache had returned with force. My ankles were so swollen that even lifting my feet felt like hauling bricks. I had planned to go home that morning, to rest, to obey Dr. Andrews' orders. But Rebecca had called me downstairs before I could even pack. We still need to finalize the champagne service, Amelia, she said from the kitchen without turning to look at me. And Brianna needs help organizing the hair trials. I took a breath. Mom, I need to talk to you. Please. She turned, visibly irritated, holding a tray of sliced strawberries. What now? The doctor said I need complete bed rest. I'm having early symptoms of preeclampsia. My blood pressure is high. I can't. I paused, swallowing hard. I can't be here tomorrow. I need to stay home. Or I might need to go to the hospital. She put the tray down with a sharp clink. Are you serious right now? The day before your sister's engagement party? Do you have any idea how selfish you sound? Selfish. I whispered. You always find a way to pull the spotlight, Amelia, she snapped. You did it during her high school graduation when you fainted. You did it at my birthday dinner when you brought that research award plaque. Now this. I was stunned into silence. Then came Brianna, glowing in silk, makeup half done, phone in hand. What's going on? She asked casually, glancing at me. She's saying she won't come to the party because her foot's a little puffy, my mother answered. That's not what I said. Brianna rolled her eyes. Of course. Another health episode. You know, Amelia, you use that doctor title like it makes you more important. But guess what? This isn't about you. I blinked, not because I didn't expect it, but because hearing it out loud still hurt. I'm not trying to steal anyone's spotlight, I said softly. I'm just scared. They stared at me like I'd just admitted to a crime. Then my mother straightened and said coldly, You'll be at the party tomorrow. Don't embarrass me. And just like that, the conversation ended. That night, I stayed in the guest room, sleepless. I rubbed my stomach and whispered to Mason, We'll be okay. Daddy will be home in a few days. Just stay with me. Please. But my body had already started to give up. And tomorrow, it wouldn't ask for permission anymore. It would demand survival. The morning of the engagement party began with a haze of gray clouds smudging the sky. The air was heavy, like the world itself had taken a breath and forgotten to exhale. I opened my eyes slowly. Every part of me ached. My hands were stiff, swollen. My head throbbed like a drum echoing in an empty room. I sat up, too fast. The moment I moved, a wave of dizziness hit me like a crashing tide. I grabbed the side of the nightstand to steady myself, forcing shallow breaths until my vision stopped spinning. It's just one more day, I told myself aloud. After this, I can rest. I took a quick shower, moving like someone twice my age. I got dressed, my fingers trembling as I pulled my maternity dress over my sore belly.
I didn't bother with makeup.
I didn't have the strength. Downstairs, the house was bustling. Delivery men carried in gold and white flower arrangements. Caterers rushed past with champagne glasses and dessert towers. In the kitchen, Brianna was laughing with one of the stylists, her white dress clinging perfectly to her figure. As I stepped into the hallway, the first pain hit me. It wasn't just discomfort, it was sharp, deep, and piercing, like something inside me had been ripped loose. I gasped and clutched the back of the sofa. Rebecca saw me. Her expression hardened. "Are you seriously doing this now?" I couldn't even answer. Sweat broke out on my brow. I need to go to the hospital," I whispered. Rebecca walked over, her perfectly styled bun not moving an inch. She lowered her voice so the guests wouldn't hear. "Don't ruin your sister's day, Amelia." "Mom," I breathed, panic swelling in my throat. "I think I'm in labor. My due date isn't for 8 weeks, but the pain, something's wrong." Behind her, Brianna arrived, fluffing her curls in the mirror. "You're kidding me," she said flatly. "You're not even full term." "I'm 32 weeks, I said, my voice breaking. "It's possible it's early, but it happens. I need help." Another contraction ripped through me. I cried out, barely catching myself as I doubled over. And then, I felt it. Warmth.
Wetness.
I looked down. Clear fluid was trickling down my legs, soaking into the hardwood floor. "My water just broke," I said in a trembling voice. Rebecca went stiff. Brianna's face turned blank. Then came the sentence I'll never forget. Rebecca said, "Call an Uber. We're about to greet the guests." I stared at her, unable to believe she was serious. "You're sending me alone?" I whispered. "In this condition?" "It's your choice," she replied. "But we're not canceling the party for this." And then they walked away, both of them, smiling as they opened the grand front doors to welcome Austin's family in luxury cars. I was left standing in the hallway, alone, shaking. The next contraction brought me to my knees. I collapsed onto the cold tile of the kitchen floor, cradling my belly, whispering to my son,
"Hold on, baby.
Please hold on." And somewhere, deep in my bones, I realized, if help didn't come soon, neither of us would make it. The pain was unbearable. It came in waves now, stronger, closer together. My body shook, my palms pressed hard against the cold tile floor, my breathing ragged and uneven. I tried to scream, but it came out hoarse and broken. "Please," I whimpered. "Someone help me." And that's when the miracle happened. A voice called faintly from somewhere outside. Then the sound of footsteps. The back door creaked open. "Amelia?" Came the urgent voice of Gloria, my neighbor from next door.
She had heard me.
She had heard what my mother and sister chose to ignore. Within seconds, she was kneeling beside me, her hands trembling as she pulled her phone from her cardigan pocket. "Oh God, you're burning up," she whispered. "You're in labor, aren't you?" I nodded through tears, unable to speak. My dress was soaked. My arms clung around my belly like a shield. "Don't move," she said, pressing buttons rapidly. "I'm calling 911. She gave the dispatcher the address, described the symptoms, and kept her hand gently on my arm. "I'm here, sweetheart. Stay with me." Then she picked up my phone, which had fallen from my pocket, and opened the last text thread. "Adam." She didn't hesitate. She called. I could only hear her side of the conversation. "Adam, this is Gloria, Amelia's neighbor. I'm at the house. She's in labor. Yes, it's early.
She's not okay.
I've called the ambulance. They're on their way. Please, come as soon as you can." Her voice cracked at the end. And then, like clockwork, I heard it. Sirens. Faint, then louder. Gloria leaned in close, brushing my hair from my forehead as tears slid down her cheeks. "They're coming, Amelia. Hold on. You're not alone anymore." The paramedics burst in through the back door moments later, 2 men and a woman, all in swift, practice motion. "She's 32 weeks pregnant," Gloria said firmly. "Water broke. Severe contractions. Possibly preeclampsia." The female paramedic, Officer Parker, immediately checked my pulse and blood pressure. "BP's dangerously high." "She's in active labor," she said, attaching an oxygen mask to my face. "We need to transport now." As they lifted me onto the stretcher, I heard Gloria say to one of them, "Her mother and sister are entertaining guests." They knew. They just didn't care. I closed my eyes, letting the oxygen fill my lungs. But even as the ambulance doors closed behind me, one thing rang louder than the sirens in my ears. They left me to die. And someone who didn't owe me a thing saved my life. The emergency room at Memorial Hospital exploded into motion the moment the ambulance doors swung open. Nurses rushed me down the corridor while doctors barked orders I could barely hear through the pounding in my head. The fluorescent lights above blurred into streaks as my stretcher jolted forward. "She's 32 weeks, one of the paramedics shouted. "Severe preeclampsia. Water broke nearly 40 minutes ago. High-risk labor." My consciousness drifted in and out, like I was floating somewhere above my body, watching it all from a place I couldn't quite reach. Then I heard the doctor's voice, calm, commanding. "We need to perform an emergency C-section.
Now."
Someone, a nurse, maybe, squeezed my hand. "Hang in there, Amelia. We've got you." I wanted to believe her, but my body was betraying me. My vision dimmed. My fingers turned cold. And then nothing. Darkness. When I opened my eyes again, everything was still. The room was dim. I heard machines beeping softly, oxygen flowing beside me. I was alive. I blinked slowly, then turned my head. Beside me, a young nurse, Nurse Lisa, smiled gently. "You're awake," she said softly. "You gave us a scare." My baby?" I asked, voice raspy and fragile. "He's okay," she nodded. "Premature, yes, but strong. Breathing on his own. He's in the NICU, but stable. You named him Mason, right?" Tears filled my eyes. "Mason," I whispered. "He made it." The door creaked open, and a calm woman in professional clothes stepped inside, a clipboard in her hands. "I'm Monica," she said gently. "I'm the hospital's social worker. I've been here since you arrived." She sat beside me. "Amelia," she continued, "I've spoken to the paramedics, the neighbor who brought you in, Gloria, and reviewed your medical records. I need to inform you. This situation qualifies as a case of intentional medical neglect." I didn't say anything. My throat burned. My soul was already raw. "I've submitted a formal report to the authorities," Monica said. "Police will investigate." Gloria gave a full statement. I nodded. That was all I could manage. But inside me, something was changing. The years of silence. The gaslighting. The insults dressed as concern. The constant dismissal of my voice. It was all coming to an end. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about Mason. And no one would ever endanger him again. Later that afternoon, the hallway outside my hospital room buzzed with quiet tension. Footsteps clicked against the polished floor, nurses whispered behind the counter, and the soft beeping of machines offered a rhythm to the storm building around me. Then the door opened. They walked in, Rebecca and Brianna, still dressed to perfection. Their hair was done, their makeup untouched. But their eyes betrayed something else. Irritation. Inconvenience. Not concern. "I can't believe it," Rebecca muttered under her breath as she looked around the room. "You had to do this today of all days." The party was going perfectly. "We missed Austin's father's speech," Brianna added with a scowl, arms crossed. "Do you realize how awkward that was?" I stared at them, hooked to IVs, drained of blood, my body stitched back together, and I said nothing. I didn't have to, because at that very moment, the door opened again. 2 police officers entered. A tall man with sharp eyes, Officer Reed, and a composed woman beside him, Officer Parker. They stepped forward with purpose. Rebecca Collins and Brianna Collins? Officer Reed asked. My mother turned with a polite but confused smile. Yes, that's us. What is this about? You are under arrest for intentional child neglect and endangerment, Officer Parker said calmly, pulling handcuffs from her belt. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say. What? Brianna shrieked. This is a mistake. Surely you're joking, Rebecca interrupted, her voice faltering. We didn't. We had a party. We didn't know. Your neighbor Gloria provided a statement, Officer Parker said, her tone flat, as did the attending paramedics, the hospital's social worker, and the medical team. You knowingly left a high-risk pregnant woman in active labor without assistance. I told her to call an Uber, Rebecca shouted. You left her unconscious on a kitchen floor, Officer Reed corrected, stepping forward. That's when the next door opened. Adam. He stood at the threshold, his jacket still on, suitcase wheels beside him, his face pale and burning with fury. His eyes met mine first, then moved to them. Why? He asked, his voice low and trembling. Why did you leave her like that? Adam, we didn't, Rebecca started. Don't lie, he cut her off. Gloria told me everything. You knew, and you chose your party over her life. Rebecca's shoulders slumped. Brianna started to cry, mascara smudging under her eyes. It wasn't that serious. She had emergency surgery, Adam snapped. She almost died. And our son. His voice broke. He turned to me and walked to my side. You came back, I whispered, tears sliding down my cheeks. He took my hand gently. I told you I would. Behind us, the officers cuffed both women. Let's go, Officer Reed said firmly. As they were escorted out, Rebecca looked at me, not with regret, but with disbelief, as if she still didn't understand what she had done. I looked away, because for the first time in my life, I was done hoping she ever would. The courtroom smelled like old wood and cold air, the kind of place where things ended, careers, reputations, illusions. I sat beside Monica, the hospital social worker, hands folded tightly in my lap. Adam was on my other side, his presence like armor around me. Across the aisle sat Rebecca and Brianna, dressed not in designer gowns, but pale beige jail-issued uniforms. Makeup free. Dignity stripped. The case was fast-tracked, the evidence too strong, the circumstances too cruel. Testimonies were read aloud. Gloria's trembling voice, describing the moment she found me. Paramedics, confirming the critical nature of my vitals upon arrival. Dr. Andrews, explaining the dangers of preeclampsia and what would have happened had I not been brought in when I was. Then I was called to the stand. I stood slowly. Every step I took was for Mason. I spoke calmly, with no bitterness, only truth. They left me to die. My own mother, my sister. They valued a party more than a life.
More than their own family.
My baby was born 8 weeks early. He spent 3 weeks in the NICU, struggling to breathe while they gave press interviews and tried to salvage social standing. That isn't just cruelty. That's calculated neglect. The courtroom was silent when I finished. Even the judge looked shaken. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of something final. This court finds both defendants guilty of intentional child neglect and reckless endangerment. Rebecca didn't flinch. Brianna sobbed. Given the evidence and the potential loss of life, the court sentences each of you to 3 years in state prison, with no option for early parole. Gasps rippled across the room. Rebecca's jaw clenched. Brianna cried harder. The judge added, "May this serve as a reminder that silence in the face of suffering is a crime, and turning your back on someone who needs help can carry consequences." As the bailiff led them away, Brianna turned and looked at me. There was no apology, no regret, only the stunned realization that this time they couldn't spin the story, and they couldn't erase my name, because now I had found my voice, and I was never going back. The sea breeze in Cape Cod carried the scent of salt and hope. It had been a year since that courtroom scene, a year since I stopped living for anyone else's approval. The city lights of Boston were behind me. So were the echoing hallways of that Beacon Hill mansion, the place where I was raised, but never truly seen. Now, I stood barefoot in the grass of my own backyard, sunlight warming my skin, as a paper lantern swayed gently overhead. Balloons in soft blue and white danced across the garden fence. Today was Mason's first birthday. He was sitting in his high chair on the porch, wearing a tiny navy onesie that read, "Miracle in Motion." His eyes, wide, curious, full of mischief, were nothing like the weak, frightened look he had in that NICU incubator. He had made it. And so had I. Adam walked out of the kitchen with a tray of cupcakes, aprons smudged with frosting. He had left international projects behind and now worked for a local engineering firm.
Home every night.
Present for every first word, every shaky step, every early morning bottle. My village had grown. Gloria had moved just 2 houses away. She visited every week with homemade soup or silly hats for Mason. Monica, the social worker who once filed a report, was now a friend who attended our small book club and never left without hugging me tight. Julia, my best friend, flew in from out of state to be here for the party. I didn't have a big family anymore, but I had a real one. As I picked up Mason and held him close, someone called out from the deck, "Cake time." I walked over to the table where everyone was waiting. A single candle stood atop the small vanilla cake. I kissed Mason's forehead. "Make a wish, baby," I whispered. Adam leaned in. He doesn't understand what a wish is yet. I smiled, my heart full. But I do. Because my wish had already come true. I was free. My son was safe. And our future was ours. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't looking backward. I was only looking forward. The guests had gathered around the backyard table, their faces warm and glowing in the golden evening light. Laughter hummed in the background, and the sound of Mason's giggles sliced through the air like a spark of joy. The single candle flickered above his cake, waiting. I knelt beside him, resting one hand gently on his back. "Go on," I whispered. "Blow it out."
Of course, he didn't know how.
So I leaned in beside him, and together we blew a soft, united breath. The flame disappeared, and with it, something else vanished too, the last remnant of a life I no longer owed to anyone who made me feel small. There were no reporters here, no announcements, no family pretending to care for the sake of appearances. Just the people who had shown up when it mattered, who heard me when I whispered instead of waiting for me to scream. I stood up, looked out across the garden, and realized something. Blood may tie you to people, but it doesn't make them your family. Family is who holds your hand when you're scared, who hears your pain before you speak it, who saves you, even when no one else sees you're drowning. Mason reached up for me. I picked him up and kissed his cheek. His small hand touched my face like he understood more than words could ever say. Behind me, Adam wrapped an arm around my waist. "Do you think you'll ever forgive them?" he asked quietly. I looked toward the sunset. Not with bitterness. Not anymore. "I don't need to," I said. "They're not part of our life anymore." And in that moment, with my son in my arms and the wind lifting the hem of my dress, I knew something with absolute certainty. You don't owe anyone your silence. And sometimes, walking away isn't weakness. It's survival. We turned back toward the laughter, toward the people who had become my real family. And as the candle's smoke curled into the sky, I smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was finally mine. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Every click helps us share these voices with the world, voices that deserve to be heard. Thank you for watching.